Hi, my name is Mackenzie Yancey.
And I'm Anna Metzler.
And I'm Evan Grace, and this is our book project on teaching digital natives by Mark Prinsky. Our topic is about how technology brings the learning community together as a whole. What are your thoughts on it, Anna?
I really liked the quote that Prinsky brought up. One of the greatest opportunities that technology has to bring us is the ability for those who have more and who know more to help those who don't. That with the project-based learning, we have a lot more information at our disposal. There's many examples that you can use in smart boards. There's books online that you can use that can help you as a teacher with your students. You have a huge source of information at your fingertips.
I agree with that. I feel that using technology allows people that wouldn't necessarily have access to the general public access. I mean, I know that like homeschooled kids, they don't have the access. They used to have teachers come to them. Whereas with the new technologies, with project-based learning like Skype and stuff like that, it really breaks down those walls of isolation, and you can get expert opinions. Like, you don't have to have just your mom or dad telling you, hey, this is what you're learning, this is what you need to learn. You have an expert that can guide you through it step by step.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think there are still some cons to to technology. Not everybody has the ability to access it. I know I looked at the census from 2012, and about 75% have access to internet, and about 78 have access to a computer. Yeah, that's a high number, but what about that 20 to 25%? Do they just get left out? And that's not necessarily 20 to 25% spread out. That could be all isolated in one area of the country. And if they don't have access to computers and everybody around them is excelling, we really just need to make sure that they have the ability and the technology to.
So what you're saying is that as a whole, project-based learning and the technology is as strong as the internet access, really.
Yeah.
That is year-round. I mean, you have third world countries that may not be that strong. And as far as the technology goes in that scenario.
How do you think that project-based learning affects the educator, the filter versus the main source? In some ways, it can encourage students to only learn the curriculum and the concepts involved in a project, but it also encourages them to learn and organize and work in groups, and they really have to think for themselves and figure things out and manage a complex project in a limited amount of time while working in a group and getting along with their peers. And it's not all about just a teacher standing and teaching them and it being repetitive and everything. It's more interaction and more things that the students can do on their own and with each other versus a teacher just standing and spitting out information to them day in and day out.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at engagedtolearn.org, and there's a lot of teachers talking about their experiences project-based learning, and they said that they really just get to give the kids what their endpoint wants to be, and they get to let the kids take that to however they want to. And as a kid, I mean, that sounds amazing. That would have sounded amazing to me. I mean, isn't that what we all want, is to sit, not be able to, not have to sit in a classroom and be able to talk and to, engage in groups and talk to our friends while learning about stuff that we actually want to learn about. And she's talking about how the students really took it above what she thought they would.
As far as the cons to project-based learning as a whole is that the teachers need to be open-minded just as much as the students do. I was doing some research, and I found Katrina Swartz's blog at blogs.kqed.org, and she had brought up a good point that teachers may think they're teaching project-based learning, but what they might actually be teaching is a term called project-oriented learning, which the difference is that project-based learning, you're learning through a project. You are doing a skill, you're using knowledge, and you're learning as you go, whereas project-oriented learning is still that regurgitation, but you're doing a project instead of a test. Like the teacher would stand up there and teach you what you need to know. Then it's like, okay, you got what you need to know. Now do this project, build this catapult, or drop this egg, or it could be anything that is a project, and that might even could be used for both project-based learning and project-oriented, but it's not the same. And just like I said, I think teachers really need to keep their eyes open and eyes and ears open, and to learn just as much as students, because this is a new topic that both categories need to learn.
Yeah, and I definitely think that teachers need to keep in mind, what their goal of teaching is. Are they teaching for them to pass a test? Are they teaching for them to, for tomorrow, for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that they need to keep in mind is skill sets. That's one of the most important things to teach through project-based learning, because that's what they're going to be using for the rest of their life. Some of the skill sets that they learn are, long-term retention, knowledge application, developing thinking, creativity skills, and I mean that's just. And what I mean by that is, you're still learning those things that you learned in a regurgitation class, but you can use them. I know when I was in Calculus 1, we learned how to find like the slope of an angle or something, and I was thinking, when am I ever going to use this? I know I'm not going to do anything that would require that, but if you're using it in a project, it might be, okay, build this, or you use that knowledge to form this, or because I know when my father used to go out and build a deck, he would have to know that stuff. I mean, he might have tools that help him out, but he would still have to have the general knowledge. And I just think that Tony Bates really kind of put that out there, what you need to know and what it does, the good things that project-based learning teaches you as far as skill sets go.
Yeah, and I definitely think that one of the biggest skill sets is critical thinking. And that's critical thinking is a way to make sure that we're teaching for tomorrow. And the two different classes are the classes based on concept and classes based on content. And when we're talking about concept-based classes, we really need to emphasize critical thinking. And we need to be asking the students, what do I want? What do I know? And what tools do I have to accomplish my goal? And, that really gets the students thinking about how to figure out a problem without memorizing steps, and so that they can do that later in life on their own after they've left our classes. And I really like what Albert Einstein had to say. He said that education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. And I definitely think that that's something that critical thinking emphasizes. And he also said that we need learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. And the important thing is to not stop asking questions. So we really need to be asking those critical thinking questions to get their brains moving and to get their critical thinking skills to somewhere where that will help them in the future.
And feeding off what she said with the pros of the critical thinking, what are they losing versus what are they learning? Are students really getting the information that they would get not using critical thinking or not using project-based learning? Are they still getting the same information that they would get without using those tools? Are they just piggybacking? Are they just feeding off of each other? I mean, is it a lot of difference in using the critical thinking or a teacher just standing, like we said, and teaching and teaching and teaching? Is it really that much different? There's a lot less lecture and a lot more projects in this. Are they getting the information that they need? That using this critical thinking, it's harder. It requires the students to think on their own, figure things out for themselves. That could cause the students to lack interest and motivation to finish the assigned projects. This also makes it a lot harder on teachers because they have to have all of these planned out and all of these projects ready for the students each day, and it's not just them standing and reading off a PowerPoint. They actually have to engage in it too, so it's not just the students, and they have to know what they're doing and help the students help themselves. Basically, is what they're doing. And
You mean by that? And I think to kind of wrap things up, I mean, no matter what type of teaching that you have, you're still going to have the "Do you understand?" question. I
Right.
mean, that's one of the main problems we have nowadays. Is the students might not necessarily raise their hand because they're afraid, you know. And that's the same as project-based learning. You're in a group, you're behind. You don't want to be picked out to say that you might be slower or you might not get it as quickly as the others. But either way, there's pros and cons. I mean, I know I'm no expert on it, but that it's not something we're going to figure out right away, but it's something that we both, that we need to work on.
And obviously, there's different things work for different classrooms and different types of students. Everything's not going to be the same. No classroom setting's the same. These would just be some pros and cons of what we've figured out in this project and learning the different things as we're going to be future educators.